And the first call I made, I closed that deal. And it was an $8,000 deal in Memphis, Tennessee.
Were you like, see everybody, see how easy this is?
Yeah, I was like, man, this is a no-brainer.
Guys, I have a special guest here today, Tony Montalbano. Tony, thank you for joining me. It's exciting to see you come from like out of nowhere. And I've seen you on a couple of high-level podcasts and sharing your experience as a brand new wholesaler who's been able to get started and really build a phenomenal business doing six-figure assignments monthly in your business, up to, you were sharing with me, a couple of $500,000 months, and that's total assignments in 1 month. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. So I'm excited to talk to you today. Thank you for taking time to be here with me.
Yeah, Jerry, thank you. Super humbled and appreciate this opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to see what you're doing, and I love how down to earth you are. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey in this business. And, you know, when you first started, you shared with me that you were trying to kind of figure out, you know, your place in the wholesaling process, where your genius fits the best, and you have a business partner. And through, you know, trial and error, you landed on Dispo.
Yes.
And if you're listening, dispositions is once you get the contract, now you have to find your cash buyer, right? And Dispo is that finding the cash buyer and exiting out of those contracts.
Yes.
So why Dispo? Why does that resonate so much with you? And then you're going to share some great strategies and tips on how to do Dispo better.
Yeah. So, I think sales, you know, Dispo is sales. We always talk about sales as acquisitions, right? But when you really think about it, dispositions is actually more sales than acquisitions. And I've been in sales for a long time. I own a business out in San Diego. I own a bicycle business out there, done, you know, close to $20 million in sales out there, all in person, not over the phone. But that's what sales are. It's these like micro and macro relationships we have. And in acquisitions, it's a little micro relationship. You make this seller feel all warm and cuddly for 45 minutes when you're on the phone with them to get them to sell you their house. And then in Dispo, it's more of a macro relationship. You're like building long-term relationships with buyers. And when I got into the industry, like you said, I didn't know what I was gonna do in the wholesale space. The first day I was in the office, I actually did acquisitions, and the first call I made, I closed that deal, and it was an $8,000 deal in Memphis, Tennessee.
Were you like, see everybody, see how easy this is?
I was like, man, this is a no-brainer. But it's funny because I had pulled up the lead. And I'm talking to the guy in Memphis, and I had a different lead pulled up on the CRM. I must have clicked another lead.
So you weren't even talking about the same property?
I was talking about a property in Jacksonville, Florida. And I kept saying your house in Florida, and he kept saying it's in Memphis. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I meant. And I'm like, I can't find this guy's property, you know, in my head.
Who am I even talking to?
But yeah, I ended up talking to the guy for 30 minutes and closed the deal. And then I was like, okay, now what? You know, my partner Eric is just a monster in sales. He's been doing it a really long time, over the phone sales. So it was pretty obvious he was going to take on that aspect of the business. And it was apparent right away, we need to figure out how to dispo our deals, because we were paying another company 25 or 30% to dispo our deals for us in the beginning. It was just me and Eric in this big office, and we're trying to figure this industry out. So I closed that first deal, and then immediately started, you know, learning through, you know, YouTube videos like yours, of how to find cash buyers, how to dispo a deal, how to put a listing together, all that stuff. And that's how I got into the dispo side of things. Yeah.
You know, there's a couple things that I love about what you just shared there. And in all fairness to you and Eric, your partner, you guys come from business and sales backgrounds. And so if you've got a strong business and sales background and you jump into wholesaling, it's like game over. You know, like you've cut so much learning curve that you can really excel like you guys are doing. So if you guys are watching this and you're like, man, how did he hit, you know, $100,000, $500,000 assignment months in year one, in 3 months? Mm-hmm. I think you told me you guys were hitting those kinds of numbers.
Yeah.
So that is a tremendous advantage that you have. If you're coming to the space and you don't have any type of sales or business background, you've got a lot of fundamentals that you've got to learn while you're trying to learn how to wholesale, right? You got a little bit, you've just got more of a journey to do, and that's fine. Just go through that journey and you'll get there, right? Just know that it's a process, know that it's a journey. For you, what I loved about that story was you worried about the deal first and then the buyer second. And I very much subscribe to that model. I think, you know, 80 to 90% of the process is getting a good deal. And when you have the good deal, if you follow some sound principles, there's going to be a buyer that wants that deal in your marketplace, making some assumptions, but there's going to be a buyer that wants that deal, assuming you have a good deal. So I think, first thing is, guys, worry about getting the good deal and then go find your buyer. Because if you have a good deal, you will find a buyer. Talk to enough people, someone's going to want that deal. So, but you're looking at this, I'm assuming from day one, like you did your other businesses, which is, okay, how do we build a system out of this? How do we do this multiple times a month? And so there's this disposition process. And so you said you take a high level approach. So explain what you mean by that, because when you look at your cash buyer, you're not looking at that cash buyer and saying, okay, I'm going to match him with this deal, and that's my priority, is just match a deal and make some money. You have a long-term perspective. Why? And what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things there. Like when all the hedge funds were buying all these properties too, and like all these companies we were hearing about, they were just like order takers. They were just taking an order from a seller, not getting good at acquisitions, and they were just putting it on a spreadsheet for a hedge fund, and they're not getting good at dispositions. So
it was paying $1.10
exactly
for, over value or whatever crazy numbers.
Yeah, it was. And don't get me wrong, we were selling to hedge funds, but we were locking up any deal we could, and that really helped me get good with the disposition process, because you're not order taking anymore. You're actually gaining the skills it takes to have a real conversation with your cash buyers. And we have an actual script we use. Yeah. It's a replica of our sales script, but we have a script we use on Dispo where we're qualifying these buyers to be on our buyers list. It's like, how many properties are you flipping a year? Like, are you a cash buyer? Are you using a lender? Can you give me an address of a property you flip so I can see what kind of flips you're doing? Yeah. So it's a long conversation we're having with these buyers. Our first conversation with them could be 20, 30 minutes long. And
why is that so important? I like to call this profiling your buyer, but why do you want to really learn and understand each and every one of your buyers? What is that doing for you?
Yeah. So we're updating their profile as we're on the phone with them. So if we get land in Charlotte or something, I know this guy buys land in Charlotte. Yeah. If we're getting condos in Atlanta, I know this guy loves condos in Marietta or something. Like I'm thinking of a buyer right now that I have. Yeah. But it's like you get specific properties. You're not scared to lock up vacant land because you don't have a buyer for it. Like, this person is buying land. This person is buying townhomes. So just like updating their profile and having a buyer when you do have a property. And one thing I'll say I was thinking about when you were talking was we came to this event at Tony Romero's Hustle Harder event in February. And a lot of people were saying things like, it's like, I'm trying to build a buyer's list, but I haven't locked up a deal yet. Like I want my buyers set before I lock up a deal. And I kept telling everybody, I'm like, let a problem happen when it's a problem. Like, you don't even have a problem yet.
You're worried about step 2 after step 1.
Yeah, you're trying to solve a problem that you don't have. Like lock up a deal and have it be a problem that you need to find a buyer for this thing to get paid. Yeah. And when you have a deal with a time limit on it, you're going to find a buyer for it.
Nothing puts your feet to the fire more. Same with money. You got a deal and you need money for it. Get the deal, and now's the time to get the money, not the money first and then the deal. It's out of order.
Right. It's out of order.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with that. So going back to this profiling your buyers, for me as a cash buyer, because I wholesale and I flip and I work with a lot of wholesalers. So I want to be profiled as a cash buyer. I want my wholesalers and deal finders to know, here's what I look for. Here's the type of properties I want, the areas that I focus on. Bring me something that fits my criteria. And when those wholesalers start bringing me junk that I don't want, it pisses me off because I'm wasting my time. Now, wait, this isn't what I'm looking for. Why are you sending me this? I told you what I wanted. Now you're sending me something else. Yeah. There's so much value to really building that relationship with your buyers where you know what they want and now you bring them the deals that they want.
Yes. And that's one of our pitches, right? It's like, I want to send you deals more efficiently. So let me get all this information from you, because the last thing I want is to send them 3 deals that doesn't fit their criteria and then they unsubscribe from my email.
Yeah, they stop looking. They stop opening. They stop opening your emails.
And I see it all the time because I subscribe to some areas to be a cash buyer, and I get these deals sent to me. And if I'm a cash buyer in San Diego, which I am, and somebody's sending me deals in Riverside, it's like they're just pulling my name from the San Diego. It's like, now I'm going to unsubscribe from you. Yeah. So if you ever do get a deal in San Diego that I like, I'm not going to buy it now because I'm not going to see it. So that it's super important.
So tell me if you do this, because one of the things I like to do with my cash buyer list is segment And I try to do like an A list, B list, kind of C list. And those A list buyers, I define as a cash buyer who pulls the trigger quick, knows what he wants, he doesn't have to raise money. He's got the cash. However he's got it. And that type of A buyer, I want a VIP. Like I want them to feel like they get first shot at the deal. Sure. Like they matter to me. I care about you. And they want to feel that way. They want to feel like they're getting preferential treatment.
Yes. Treat your VIPs as VIPs. I say that all the time in my training. If somebody's bought a deal from you or put really good offers in on a deal or is a true cash buyer, they're not using a lender, they want to close ASAP, all that kind of stuff is super important. Yeah, you do need to treat those VIPs as such. And our process is that, like when we have a deal, we'll put the listing together and we only send it to our VIPs the first day.
Yeah.
We want them to feel special because those are the people that have bought deals from us. Those are the people we have relationships with. And that's why it's so important to get into these long conversations and build rapport with your buyers. Like just like on the acquisition side, we're not the first person to call this seller and try and buy their house, right?
Yeah.
It's the same on the dispo side. They're getting tons. Like if they're a good cash buyer and they're on all these lists and people share lists and now Investor Lift people are sharing their email. They're getting just bombarded with deals. And as we know, there's a select few wholesalers that lock up good deals. Yeah. So these buyers are getting bombarded with some good deals and a lot of bad deals, right? So we want to build this rapport and relationship with them where they know we're qualifying ourselves and we're qualifying them to be on our VIP list. Because when I pick up the phone and call that buyer, I want them to be like, oh, Tony always has good deals. Like he's not going to waste my time. I'm answering the phone.
And you don't fudge the numbers with them.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I had an experience recently where we call this VIP buyer, a buyer list guy. And he's in the car. You can hear he's in the car. And he basically was like, yeah, tell me about it. What street is that? Okay. What's my number? Done. Yep. I'm like, you don't even want to go look at it? No, he doesn't want to go look at it. He doesn't need to go look at it. He knows his numbers. He knows his neighborhoods. That's it. That was how fast it was to dispo to that guy. But why? He knows I'm not going to screw him. I'm not going to bring him something that's out of his, with a foundation problem or whatever. He knows because I built rapport. We've done a lot of deals together. And valuing those relationships is where the money's at. Yeah. Building those relationships.
100%. Yeah, it's a relationships-based business. And it's funny you say that because the last time I was in Milwaukee, when I was driving to the airport in Raleigh to fly up here in February, we had a deal in Raleigh. I called my best buyer in Raleigh on the phone with him to the airport. And I said, hey, I got this deal. This is the price. He's like, did you walk the property? I said, I walked it myself. He's like, is it good to go? I go, yep. He goes, send me the contract. Sent him the contract on the way to the airport. It was $125,000 assignment fee. And just like that, he never walked it. He sent the EMD. No, he didn't know. He knew it was going to be a good property. Yeah. Sent me the EMD that day.
He probably knows exactly what he's going to spend on it. He knows all his numbers.
Yeah, this guy does 100 flips a year. He knows the area. He knows the street I was talking about. He probably knew the house, and bought it.
Imagine if you're blasting him crap that he doesn't want. You're gonna lose so much rapport.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a process, and to do it right, it's all about those relationships.
It really is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Love that. So what are some high level tips if someone's watching this video right now, Tony, and they're thinking, okay, well, I've got this contract, I think I've got a great deal. I need to go now find a cash buyer for this deal. If they've got 0 to a small list and they're looking for a buyer, let's start there. What's your best strategy for finding a new cash buyer, maybe in a market that you don't really have a list?
Yeah, I always say, this is something I wrote on my wall the first day I started dispoing, and I still do it every single time I get a deal. Your comps are your buyers, right?
Your comps are your buyers.
If you see a flip that just happened and it's a cash comp, that is your buyer for that property. You should always we have a sniper approach after our VIPs, right? So we'll send it to the VIPs, we send it, and then if our VIPs don't buy it for any reason, we'll send it out to our massive buyers list. And we do a sniper approach at that point where we're going on PropStream and Zillow, and we're finding the cash buyers that flipped houses in that area, half mile, whatever it is. We'll call, 25 cash buyers and do a sniper approach where these are all the people flipping houses in that neighborhood, in that area. And that is the best, most efficient way, I believe, in finding a buyer for that property.
Definitely. That exact strategy is how I do my virtual flips in markets that I don't know. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, if you understand the nature of a flipper, flippers love to flip in neighborhoods where they've already flipped.
Yes.
They love to repeat flip in the same neighborhoods because they know the neighborhood, they've got contractors, they know exactly what they're doing. So to get another deal in that same neighborhood is a dream.
It's a no-brainer. Well, and they might have, if they have another strategy is they're currently flipping that house, right? Like they bought it for cash. You saw it was, you might have saw pictures on Zillow that it was a rehab or whatever. Bought it for cash 6 months ago. It's not relisted yet. Maybe they're still into that rehab. Like to have 2 rehabs in the same neighborhood, It cuts so much cost down for those contractors and those flippers. So,
well, think about it. They could be thinking about their next deal, or maybe they want to do 2 at once. If it's active, and how do you know it's a flipper? It's going to be renovated, vacant, and sometimes staged.
Right.
I can spot them in 3 pictures. I'm like, there's a flipper.
Yes.
So you look for the flippers. And again, it could be a distressed property. They're rehabbing it right now, so it's not for sale yet. That's the one you mentioned. It could be active. Now they're thinking about their next deal, or it could be sold, and now they're looking for their next deal.
Yeah, they got the
any one of those
again.
areas. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anywhere in that process, the flipper in that neighborhood is your ideal buyer.
It is, yes. I mean, yeah.
I don't know what you found with your numbers, but I found that if I can talk to a dozen, maybe 15 flippers within the neighborhood of where my subject property is, I can find a buyer.
Yes.
It's that small of a ratio.
Yes. I mean, we talk about like KPIs all the time too. Like our Dispo team is required to call through 25. But if they at number 7, they get a guy that's at full price or something, it's selling to him. Yeah. But if after we talk to 25 flippers, 25 cash buyers in that area, and nobody wants it, it's like, all right, what did we screw up?
We don't have a deal
on our side. This isn't a deal. Or we priced it too high, or we screwed up a comp, or it's in a little rougher shape than we thought. Something's wrong with it, and then we readjust. So we'll readjust after 5 days, and then we'll send it out reduced if we have to.
Yep. Tell me if you do this as well on those flippers that you're finding in the neighborhood. What I like to do, and it's very time contingent, because if I'm under a crunch, then I don't have time. But I like to call the listing agent that represented that flipper. Mm-hmm. And what I found is I don't have to compensate that listing agent because they want to bring a deal to their flipper. They're going to get a relist anyway if it goes through, and they're more than willing to bring your deal to their customer. Mm-hmm. And so that cuts out a ton of time because you don't have to skip trace and track down your cash buyer. Right. Because the listing agent information is right there on Zillow or wherever.
Yeah, we do that all the time. Obviously, if it's easy to skip trace, we'll call the buyer. You start getting into LLCs and stuff, and it can take time. It can take time. It's hard. Sometimes you'll never find that person's number. So we'll spend a couple minutes trying to find that number or skip trace. If we can't, we're doing exactly that. Gotcha. We go to Zillow, look for the buyer's agent, give them a call. And that's the pitch. It's, you're going to make money on the back end flipping this property. You're going to be feeding your investor properties.
They're going to look like a hero to their flipper because they're bringing them a deal.
Exactly. Like if I have to, I'll pay a commission if I have to make a deal done. But that is exactly the pitch. You're going to make money on the back end on this property. Yeah. What
a fantastic strategy. Mm-hmm. What would be, we'll wrap up here after this, but as far as Dispo, the one thing I did want to make sure I ask you is, as you start to build the business and you go from, the solopreneur where you're doing everything, right? In your case, you had a business partner. A lot of people maybe have that, but there comes a point where it's time to go to like phase 2 in the business and bring on that first hire or maybe multiple people. On the Dispo side, how are you finding Dispo people now? Because you're scaling your business. And what does it look like for you to compensate your Dispo people? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so I've always hired on energy. Like if somebody has a lot of energy and good energy, it's like if they have a motor, I'll steer them in the right direction. I want that good energy in the office. Like we're trying to hire on culture. Yeah. So I want somebody with good energy. I don't care what their background was. If they have a sales background, great. But if somebody's got a ton of energy and it's good energy, it's like that. You could turn that person into a salesperson in Dispo and Deals. Like on the acquisition side, we want somebody a little more empathetic, right? they're sweet talking a seller, whatever. You need a little more grit on the dispo side, I believe, which
because you're talking to investors.
You're talking to investors. They're going to try and beat you up on price. They're going to say this or that. You got to, stick to your guns sometimes and be a little yes or no on the dispo side. So I look for that. I look for somebody that's a little more gritty. You don't really need somebody as empathetic. And in terms of compensation, we do like a $30,000 base. And then the first 30 days, if they lock up any assignment fees in those first 30 days, they get 1% commission on those deals.
Okay.
After 30 days, it's 2% commission up to 150,000. If they do over 150,000, it's 2.5% commission.
And this is Dispo.
This is Dispo.
Okay,
Yes.
Dispo. So you put them on a base salary.
Base salary.
And then a percentage of
Commission of deals that they assign.
commission. So that would be the assignment fee.
Assignment fee, yeah.
A percentage of the assignment
And
fee.
in our office, 150,000 sounds like a ton, but we've had Dispo people doing well over 300,000 in our office. So you can make a lot of money in Dispo.
Yeah, so I love that. So guys, I kind of look at when you compensate people, you can do either straight hourly or salary, right? There's gonna be challenges with productivity.
Yes.
So you better have really tight oversight. You can do straight commission. Right now, that's scary because if they don't land a deal this week, how they feeding their family, so it's tough. Or quasi, and you're using a quasi model where you're giving them probably enough pay to put food on the table, but not really enough to get ahead in life.
Right, exactly.
And that's where then the motivation comes into close, because now the real money comes on the percentages of closes.
Right, and then just tiering it however your office is set up.
Because you got to keep them hungry.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You want them to try and always reach that next level.
I had you'll relate to this. I had a
I don't know what's going on over
I
here.
had a we won't tell you there's a guy crawling on the floor behind us.
With his shirt off.
I had a guy, and he was phenomenal, best sales guy I ever had, but he hit his quotas on Tuesday and I could not get him to work the rest of the week because he hit his number he was happy with for the week.
Right.
And then that was it. So we had to, by tiering, it kept him hungry because he couldn't say no to the better percentages, right?
Yeah. If I could ask you one thing, Jerry, is so I've struggled with this thought in Dispo and the pay structure too, because it is a Dispo team that we're building, right? And when I first started building a Dispo team, I thought maybe an umbrella type commission. So if somebody calls in for a property in Gastonia and it's not the right one for them, but this other Dispo agent has a property in Charlotte that's good for that buyer, like what's motivating this Dispo agent to now sell this Charlotte deal to this Gastonia buyer, or like just to so they're sharing buyers and sharing information, working each other's deals where it's still fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So my philosophy has always been to be very unfair. And what we do is we give the very best deals to the very best Dispo closer. He actually gets the gravy. He gets the easy ones. He gets the good ones. And he gets these really high numbers, and everybody else has to chase. So, and then the really difficult, really hard ones, we actually give to the worst guy.
The worst guy. Yeah.
And I think the philosophy or the mindset behind that is you really feed your producers. You really make them win, almost unfairly win. And everybody else has got to try to catch him and work up to him.
Yeah.
And you'll turn rate, you'll burn.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's hard. They're getting the crappiest
But that's
deals.
what makes a good salesperson or Dispo person, whatever, is getting through all that grit and having the hard deals. You really got to dig, and
he knows when I get up there, I'm going to get the gravy deals.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to get those home run
point.
deals.
Yeah.
So I've got something to work towards now that I got to earn.
Yes.
When you spread it out, what you're not doing is rewarding your top guys.
Yes.
Because they're saying, we'll throw you a bone every now and then, but we're going to throw this guy a bone even though he sucks.
Yeah.
Even though you're here early, he's not. Even though you've committed more, he hasn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It can cause the lazy people to be even more lazy because they know they're
just
commission
entitled
on everybody else.
All I got to do, if every fifth deal is a good one, I'll just wait for that fifth deal.
Right.
And I'll putz around on these other four.
Yeah. True.
Whereas the guy that's really proven himself, he's getting the best.
Yeah. Great advice.
Just a thought. Yeah. Maybe try it out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Maybe I'd love to hear. Try it out if you want and let me know how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. I will.
Awesome. Well, Tony, thank you for sharing all of these amazing ideas around Dispo. Guys, I hope you found a ton of value in that. Make sure to be on the lookout for Tony. We'll put some of your information below the video if that's all right, so people can be in touch with you. And if you guys haven't, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.